Greetings, Starfighters, the penultimate episode of Season 8, and a movie starring someone I actually recognize, Christina Milian. She was a pop singer before she was an actress. And also, I think one of the first things I ever saw her act in was an episode of Smallville, and she was not that great on it. But then again, Smallville was not that great of a show. Off topic. I don't know why I watched for like 6.5 full seasons before I quit, but well, no, their version of Green Arrow was actually pretty decent. Yeah. Anyway, yes, this movie is called Memories of Christmas. So let's go see what that is about. I wonder if amnesia will be involved. Doesn't look like it. Yep, that's actually probably a good thing. I mean, I have enjoyed movies with amnesia plots in them before, but that's generally the exception than the rule. And let's be honest, this is Hallmark Channel. I don't really trust them to pull that kind of thing off.
Okay, so I have now watched Memories of Christmas from 2018. The plot summary is courtesy of Letterboxd. Again. Noelle was raised by the Queen of Christmas. When she inherits her late mother's house, she finds out that her mother had been hiring someone to decorate it, Dave. The deal is off, but Dave convinces Noelle to let him carry on the tradition. As the display goes up, Noelle's defenses start to come down. She embraces the town's Christmas gala that was her mother's legacy, finds unexpected love with Dave, come on, and develops a joy for the holidays that she never thought possible. Noelle? Nell from A Majestic Christmas? Am I reading too much into the fact that both of the women of color leads on this set have similar sounding first names? I can't be the only one who thinks that's odd, can I? Also, don't think I didn't pick up on the main character of a Christmas movie being named Noelle.
I know writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards.
We meet Noelle as she is doing work in her office while the office Christmas party goes on outside, which leads to someone who I guess is her boss essentially ordering her to take time off. A workaholic who isn't into Christmas. And this is apparently a feeling that goes all the way back to her childhood. This movie couldn't have telegraphed its ending harder if it tried. So Noelle goes back to her hometown in Michigan for the first time since her mother died, and we cut a bit awkwardly from her arriving at the house to being woken up by the noise of our male lead for the movie setting up the Christmas lights on the house. He apologizes because he didn't know she was going to be there and says he'll speak to her out front, but when she gets to the front door, he's not there, but a couple of her neighbors are. One of whom is played by noted character actor Gary Chalk. Since he was in that terrible live-action Ninja Turtles series, at least I can say this is not the worst thing he's ever been in. At least here he won't be behind a plot to steal a lottery ticket from an old man. The neighbors' names are Mike and Missy, by the way. When David makes it to the front porch finally, they introduce him to Noelle, and the four end up in the kitchen having cocoa, and this is where Noelle learns that David was setting up the decorations on what he'd thought was an empty house as a promise to her mom. Noelle herself reveals, much to the neighbors' disappointment, that she doesn't want to have any decorations put up as she's only in town to pack up the house and put it up for sale. David announces that he's going to continue his work despite Noelle's objections. He says it's a bad idea because in 3 days' time every house on the street would be lit up except for this one, to which Noelle says she doubts anyone will notice, and for once I'm glad this is a Hallmark Channel movie, because at least I know it's not going to get Christmas with the Cranks levels of ridiculous. Not that they wouldn't want to, just that they wouldn't have the budget for it. I mean, they have a former pop star and Optimus Primal in the cast. That probably ate up a good chunk of the budget right there. Seriously though, Dave is being unreasonable here, despite what the movie clearly wants me to think. It isn't his house after all. If Noelle says no decorations, that's her right. He brings in some dumb metaphor about the Mona Lisa missing a tooth, and I'm just sitting here like, bruh, no means no. Yeesh. You know, this is the kind of thing I was honestly expecting from every movie in this set. This is going exactly how these films are often described on social media. I had no idea how lucky I was to start out with a couple of films that broke with formula. Not in a particularly exciting way, but still. How am I supposed to root for these two to get together when we're not even 10 minutes in and this guy is laying it on thick with the conformity? Noelle is eventually able to talk him into accepting a deal where she lets him do the decorations in exchange for him fixing up some stuff inside the house before she sells it. He accepts this deal, even though that means more work for him, because we wouldn't have a movie otherwise, as this is pretty much the only way to justify having these two spend that much time together, at least in the first act. Later, we get some character moments between Noelle, Mike, and Missy that isn't terrible, but it does leave me a bit confused as to Noelle's age here. I'm not sure it matters. The scene is fine. Nothing special, but not really anything for me to snark about either. We get a new plot point here as Noelle offers to help a local lawyer who she'd babysat during her youth save the lodge where the town's annual Christmas gala is usually held, and this just seems like an even less interesting version of the main plot from the first movie this season. What it's being saved from? Something about the current owners looking for a better deal? I actually went to the trouble of watching this scene twice, something I rarely do for this show, and I still don't quite get it. I'll give the movie this much credit. The cast, for the most part, is not phoning it in. They seem to really want their characters to come across as real people. I just wish the writers had put as much effort into it. This is all pretty boilerplate stuff for this kind of movie. It honestly doesn't deserve the effort the cast, Christina Milian and Gary Chalk in particular, are giving it. I would not have blamed them if they had just decided to phone it in and cash the paycheck. We learn a bit more as an audience about Noelle's mother here, but not really anything I feel adds to what we can glean about her just from the plot summary I read at the start of this section. If there's one positive I can give this segment of the movie is it's tempered my annoyance at the love interest's social pressuring about Christmas decorations earlier. Not that I've changed my mind on him being a low-key dick, but it's not at the front of my mind during this part of the movie. Much like with Christmas by the Book, it's probably not a good sign when the quality of what's supposed to be a romantic film increases when one half of the romantic pairing at the core of the film is absent. There's something of a trope in the rom-com genre where you have a married couple who are friends of the lead character, who are frankly so much more interesting than the main character, you kind of wish the movie was following them instead. Judd Apatow actually made a movie about that kind of couple called This Is 40. I haven't seen it yet, but it is on the list. Mike and Missy aren't quite to that level, but they aren't annoying either. I certainly like them more than Dave. I think that much is obvious by this point. The next morning, Noelle gets a phone call that something has gone wrong with the moving van she was going to use. The road it was going to come in on froze over, so they had to reschedule to after Christmas. She then gets a call from... It's implied that this guy, Rex, is also her boyfriend, but they haven't said it outright yet, but they do work together, and he needs her help as the business thingy from the opening has gotten complicated, so she agrees to head back to San Francisco for a few days. She tells this to Dave, who's shown up to continue his decoration work just as she's leaving. Dave is clearly jealous about Rex, as if that's any of his fucking business, but does offer to give Noelle a ride to the airport, as it's not likely she'd be able to get a taxi to come to her mother's house, given the condition of the roads. Partway there, though, Noelle gets a phone alert that her flight has been cancelled, making this whole scene in Dave's truck pretty much pointless, except to have our leads in physical proximity to each other. And if I actually wanted them to be a couple when this is over, I'd be okay with this. But I don't, so I'm not. But at least I'm close to the end, right? All of that wasn't even 20 minutes. So we end up at the hunting lodge that is about to be sold to condo developers, and a bunch of people from the town, including Dave's sister, who I'm sure is here to just try and convince the audience to like Dave. Good luck with that. And yada yada. We learn Noelle's father, who is also dead, was Mike's law partner. Noelle meets the lawyer who she'd babysat for in person finally. Well, in person as an adult finally. I probably didn't need to explain that, but better safe than sorry. Noelle thinks the name of the company looking to buy the lodge sounds familiar, so that'll probably be important later. Almost a half hour in, and we get more of a clarification on Noelle and Rex's relationship in that she's interested in him, but they aren't actually dating. Okay, so at last we have a bit of a break from formula in this movie. Usually in these types of movies, the last two excluded, there's a boyfriend or fiancé who is going to get dumped before the end credits. As it stands now, Noelle isn't sure if Rex is actually interested in her too, or if it's wishful thinking. We get some stuff with the lawyer, her name is Corey, by the way, in Noelle's mom's Christmas shed. And yes, you heard me right. A shed for just, Christmas decorations. There are a lot. This scene exists to just drive home how inevitable Noelle's abandoning her career in San Francisco is. There's a snowball fight, there's more real estate drama, yada yada, there's an ice skating scene, the romance is moving along as expected. Dave has upgraded from a jerk to just boring, but I'll take it. We get some sad backstory for Dave that I don't want to be glib about, so I won't yada yada it. At one point, he was up for a minor league hockey team with a goal to make it to the NHL, but he suffered a knee injury that torpedoed that dream. This ended up also costing him a girlfriend he had at the time, but ultimately moving to the town this movie takes place in and helping his sister out with her son helped stabilize him. This is actually a pretty good character backstory, certainly better than I've just described it, but none of it really justifies the problematic behavior we've seen up to this point, like the nagging about the decorations or the jealousy about Rex. They end up rushing to finish setting up the Christmas lights on the house in time for the carolers, and the movie treats this with the seriousness of trying to disarm a bomb, and somehow the movie is only now hitting the halfway point. Noelle gets a call from Rex and learns the company trying to buy the lodge is a client of her boss's. Dave overhears this conversation, including the part where Rex asks Noelle to try and help the sale along, and he leaves, upset of course, because we have to have drama, even though she didn't agree to anything. And he heard her not agreeing to anything. But Dave has decided that that's what she was in town to do the whole time. This only gets worse when they learn that the lodge sale was finalized while Noelle is trying to talk to him at the hockey rink later. Dave's sister decides to play peacemaker and is being a much-needed voice of reason, which is a welcome surprise for one of these movies. Yada yada, Noelle gets put in charge of the fundraiser at the gala. At least the pacing of the movie is picked up, so that's nice. Noelle comes to the gala in the dress from the poster. She gives a speech about her mom, decides she loves Christmas now, and I'm just counting down to Rex showing up even though we've only got 21 minutes left, including credits, so I have no idea how they'll be able to pack all that in. The scholarship that was awarded at the gala goes to Dave's nephew, which, to be honest, I saw coming a mile away the second the movie took time to mention how he didn't get a sports scholarship. And Rex shows up as Dave and Noelle are dancing, and it's awkward as you're probably imagining. Rex makes fun of a Christmas gift Dave had given Noelle, a snow globe, and that's the beginning of the end for Noelle's interest in him. Movie, if you were going to have Rex be a tool, it should have been for the whole movie. This kinda comes out of nowhere. He is acting more self-involved than he was before his boss told him to be less self-involved. I mean, I guess to an extent that's kind of realistic, so maybe I shouldn't complain, but I'm honestly surprised Noelle didn't just toss his ass out the second he tried to throw away her Santa mug without even asking. Anyway, Noelle is able to save the Christmas gala by having her own client from earlier in the movie buy the lodge instead, which makes sense in context, don't worry about it. Noelle breaks it off with Rex before it could even really get started, but that's fine. The movie just spent about 10 minutes completely eroding what charm he had. She decides to stay in her hometown, as is usually in the case with these movies. But Noelle doesn't actually quit her job, as I thought would happen, but ends up becoming a senior partner at the Midwest division of the firm she was working for at the beginning of the movie, which was actually set up when her boss, during that opening sequence, talked about wanting to expand. She and Dave finally kiss. The end. Random thoughts I had while watching the movie. The sets for this movie seem a lot smaller to me than most of the ones we got in the last movie, or even the one before that. Looks like I may have been right about how much of the budget went to the cast. Close to the 14-minute mark of the movie, we get a snippet of a song that I think was original for this movie. It's not bad, or rather, the snippet of it they gave us isn't bad. I would have liked to hear the whole song, but the editors had other plans. Unlike Christmas by the Book, the handful of decent, I feel like good would be an overstatement. Scenes actually do elevate the movie as opposed to making the bad parts stand out more. Though really, if the pros list of a movie has to include the phrase, "I didn't hate it," I sure damn with faint praise a lot on this show, don't I? One genuine laugh this movie got out of me was an exchange between Dave and his nephew where Dave says party as partay, and the nephew is like, no one says it like that anymore. So Dave declares that he needs to say it like that more often, especially in front of the nephew and his friends. Towards the end of the movie, I was getting a little tired since I was watching it kind of late. The more tired I got, the better the movie seemed. Once I was more awake, though, the problems came rushing back. This is not a movie to be enjoyed by people who watch movies more casually than I tend to. Were I just catching this on TV one night, somehow since I never watch Hallmark Channel by choice, I might not have had so many issues with it, but since this is for a YouTube show... Final verdict. This movie is so formula you could use it to feed an infant. It is so basic it has a pH of 8 to 14. It is so lacking in spice, it's what white people order at an Indian restaurant. The filler to pad the runtime of the movie is considerably better than the movie it's trying to pad. In terms of adherence to the infamous Hallmark Channel Christmas movie formula, it's not as egregious as I feared it would be, not just from the plot description on the back of the DVD case, but from a lot of Dave's scenes in the first half. But after two movies that steer clear of some of the biggest cliches this subgenre is known for, getting one that follows those cliches, paint-by-number style, is a step down. At least Noelle isn't abandoning her career entirely, merely relocating, and I suppose Dave could be a good partner if he could ease off on the making uncharitable assumptions about people, but still. I don't see Memories of Christmas taking the bottom spot when we get to the season wrap-up at the moment, but I don't think it's taking the top spot either. If it does, though, it'll be carried over the finish line on the backs of the supporting characters, Noelle's neighbors and Dave's sister and nephew especially. I guess that's why they call him a supporting cast, huh? Of course, we still have one movie to go before the list can be finalized, and we end the season on a movie with a title that could be made to look ominous with nothing more than a change of font, The Last Christmas Home. Have fun, stay safe.